Well, as the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. And quite frankly, to play the exact same team again that played against Wolves and expect a better result today away at Spurs is quite frankly baffling. And even though I still predicted Spurs to win when I did my predictions earlier this week and after the Wolves game, it doesn't make it any less frustrating. And honestly, I am absolutely fuming at that performance. That was absolute dog shit from Manchester United, and I apologise. I know I don't swear too much on this channel, but honestly, that was a dog shit performance. That is absolutely unacceptable. The lack of effort again. I don't know if it's because they're not fit. I don't know if it's because they're not sharp or they just cannot be bothered. Because the style of play again today, it's just so slow. I don't understand it. We have quality players, and at times in that first half, we showed real glimpses of quality and little bits of movement that were trying to start to slowly unlock Spurs. But then, as the game wore on, it's just like I don't understand it. How you can have players that are so good at passing the ball and normally so good at making runs in behind and dragging players, to just see them essentially walking round, lack of ideas, again, not showing for the ball, standing in a line up front like they were last week. I don't get it. Is this coming from the manager? Is it coming from the players? Because I'm not seeing Erik ten Hag really go out there and tell people to start moving around more, start playing the ball a bit faster and a bit harder. They just seem so casual, and I just don't get it. And yeah, I am really, really fuming. I don't really know where to begin with that performance. I suppose I should start with, like I say, I thought we did okay in the first half. I think we should have been winning at half time. We had plenty of chances. Bruno Fernandes simply had to score that header. Anthony definitely should have done better with his shot that hit the post. I am utterly convinced we should have had a penalty, and we can go on about the inconsistencies of referees till the sun comes home. But you know, as they say, what goes around comes around. Wolves should have had a penalty last week. We should have had a penalty this week. Let me know in your comments your thoughts on that decision. But for me, it was an absolute clear-cut penalty. We saw handball decisions last week. The one that stands out in my mind is the Lewis Dunk one against Luton, where he's sliding away. It hits the back of his arm, his trailing arm, that he has really no control over. That's given as a penalty. But when Romero goes like that, makes himself big and blocks the ball with his arm, that's not given. To me, that should be a penalty. And look, if we score, then maybe we have a completely different second half. But the fact of the matter is we didn't score. And that then brings us back to the problem of, why have we still not got a striker? Yes, we spent 70 million on Højlund, but Rashford is not a striker. He needs to be playing out on the left-hand side. And we don't have another striker. Garnacho has played up front in the past, but to me, he doesn't strike me as a good enough centre-forward. There's all this Mason Greenwood stuff going along. If he comes back, is he going to be a centre-forward? He's certainly not going to be fit for at least 2 or 3 months. If he does come back, you can't just put him straight back into the first team and expect him to start playing and scoring goals. And Højlund is apparently not going to be fit until the Arsenal game. So we've got to sort it out, because we're playing Nottingham Forest next week and we need a striker, because Rashford is doing absolutely nothing up there. He is no threat to anyone in the striker position, and we're just not going to score goals if we keep playing like that. And then, obviously, like I say, we've not scored in that first half. We get to the second half, and then, well, then all the problems arise, and we have to talk about the Mason Mount experiment, because it is an experiment. It's one that I thought wouldn't be applied to games like this. I thought the whole idea would be that we play Casemiro, Bruno and Mount when we're at home against what you would consider the bottom half teams, like Wolves and teams like that. And it didn't work last week. So to then go away to Spurs, a side that are going to be difficult to play against, to still go in with the mindset of, we'll just play Casemiro on his own, play Mount and Bruno farther forward and failing to track back. It's just never going to work. We have to get another midfielder in. I am baffled he didn't play Scott McTominay. I would have started him, and I certainly would have brought him on at half-time. I don't understand that. They said on commentary, clearly that's just a signal that he wants McTominay out of the club, but McTominay's out of the club. Who the hell's going to go in there? We haven't got defensive-minded midfielders other than Casemiro, and he is drowning in that midfield on his own. And to be honest, he doesn't look fit. He is walking around that midfield so many times. The Spurs players would pick up the ball, whether it was out wide or in the middle, and Casemiro would be jogging back, and it would have to be Mason Mount that would have to overtake Casemiro and then make the last-ditch tackles. Like, I don't really know what's going on in there at the moment, but it's absolutely not working. We need to make a midfield signing, or we need to play Scott McTominay in the next game, because the midfield experiment is just not working. And until we get it sorted, we've got major problems. We have got one more game before the international break, one more game before the transfer window closes, and then we're away to Arsenal. And honestly, I sat here when I did my league predictions a couple of weeks ago, and I said if we were going to be serious about challenging for everything, not just the league, we had to prove that we had improved in our away performances. And with our first two away games being Tottenham and Arsenal, if we were going to be considered serious, we needed a minimum of 4 points, potentially even 6 points, where we've just been absolutely outplayed by Tottenham. And we got 0 points from the first game. And with the greatest of respects to Tottenham, Arsenal are a better team than Tottenham right now. And if we play like that against them in a few weeks' time, we'll get massacred. That is a real concern, because, again, the away performances, the start to the season, how we approach the games, the start to the second half, all the things that we were getting wrong last season, we're already getting wrong this season. And that's on everyone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to pin that solely on Ten Hag. That's on the players. That's on the coaching staff. It's on how we're getting it out of the players. It's on the Glaziers. It's on the board for not sorting out these transfers in terms of who needs to be sold so we can bring in the right players to bolster up this midfield. But ultimately, 2 games into the season, we've shown no signs of improvement from last season. And that is essentially what you're measured against. It doesn't matter how other teams perform if you're not making improvements on your own previous season. Now, granted, we lost our 2 opening games of last season. We lost them 2-1 and 4-0. This time, we've won 1-0 and lost 2-0. So you could say we've made slight improvements. But the actual on-field performance has been no better. And the same mistakes are cropping up over and over and over again. I don't really know where we go from here. Serious work needs to be done on the training ground to get more out of these players, because they are not giving enough. And I don't know what that reason is, as I've already spoken about. Whether it's fitness, whether it's attitude, or whatever. Something needs to be done to get more out of these players, because we are not going to achieve anything if we play like this for the rest of this season. I've not even talked about the 2 goals, because the 2 goals are absolutely shocking, by the way. First off, why is Luke Shaw tucked in so deep? The ball was going out to Kulusevski time and time again. Shaw was about 10-15 yards away from him. Garnacho went back with him, which then meant he had free run at the defence. Ball comes in. Martinez doesn't fully commit to it. It bobbles around. Casemiro, like I said, he was asleep once again. Sarr nips in and scores. Great finish. And then the second goal, yet again, ball out wide to the fullback because we're tucked in too far defensively. They get the ball in, ball inside. Davis scuffs it. I don't know what Martinez is doing. He just shanks it into his own net. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. And considering how much money we've spent on that midfield, for it to get outdone by Spurs, and like I say, Spurs played okay. I'm not going to say Spurs played brilliant. I don't think they did. They were rubbish in the first half, and we should have been winning, like I already said. For the first 10-15 minutes of the second half, they were good. And for the remainder of the game, they just ran harder than our midfield did. They weren't particularly anything special, but it is what it is. But we can't afford that to keep happening. To allow goals and chances to be created so easily against us, because we're simply not willing to put in the yards necessary to close down our opposition. And then even when we do close down the opposition, we just dive in. Serious work needed. I don't know what the solution is right now. My stopgap would be play McTominay next week. I wouldn't play Mason Mount. I think that experiment is failing. I think it has to be Mount or Bruno as the number 10 if we're going to continue to play 4-2-3-1. I think it just has to be one of the two of them, and we need to bring in a more defensive-minded player, whether that's McTominay, whether that's Amrabat, whether that's Kefi and Thuram, whether that's Kobe Mainoo when he gets back to full fitness. I don't know, but something needs to be done urgently, because we cannot keep leaving Casemiro isolated on his own. It's just not working. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I don't really know what else to say. We've been, like I say, we've been outplayed by Spurs. And in my brain, that's just embarrassing. With the greatest of respects to them. Like I say, I thought they played okay in the second half. But ultimately, I don't think Spurs will achieve anything this season if that's the level of quality that they've got. If Spurs fans think they played well today, I think they're in for a rude awakening when they play against a team that is a lot more up for it than what we were in this game. Let me tell you that much. But we'll see. As I say, let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you very soon.